Hey everyone, I decided to do my first YouTube video on the Monstera deliciosa, this giant beast that has taken up the entire corner of my living room. Anyway, we're going to cover a few different topics, first being light and then potting mix, followed by watering frequency and fertilizer, as well as any other random facts I might think of. Yeah. For light, Monstera deliciosas are almost always recommended as a medium light plant, and even a low light plant, when in reality they actually like a significant amount of light in order to get very big leaves. So if you can see, I will show you how many windows I have it sitting next to. That window right there faces like southeast, and then this is an east window, and then up there is another east window, and there's another window right over there. So really, I give this plant a lot of light in order for it to grow those big, beautiful leaves. Another thing that will encourage those leaves to grow very big is to grow it in an upwards direction. You can see here, as I get in closer, that I have been growing this up a pole. And if you go all the way back down, you can see back at the bottom where it was just a little skinny vine back around there. If I can even get in there, because it's kind of a tricky angle. You can see back to where it was just a skinny little thing. When I started this plant 3 years ago, it was actually a little tiny 2-leaf piece of plant with no splits. And now 3 years later, it's about 8.5 feet tall, and I think its biggest leaf measured around 2.5 feet across, which is actually incredible size-wise. Another thing I should mention with these big leaves is that you will want to dust them very frequently, otherwise they can't take in the light as well. As you can see here, my plant is in dire need of dusting, and I just haven't managed to squeeze that in with the whole toddler mom life thing going on. So that's something that will be a weekend project, to get the ladder out and get up to dust those leaves off. As far as what's next, I'll cover my potting mix. I'll get in close again so you can see it. I actually use a fairly chunky bark mix. I like to use something like Earth Mother or Happy Frog as a base, and then add in pumice and the mini pine bark nuggets, just to get it this really gritty texture that the Monsteras like. They seem to grow really well when their roots are able to breathe and thrive in that loose, airy mix. So, and as you can see, mine went absolutely bonkers with these aerial roots, and that's a question I hear a lot, is what to do with these. And as you can see, as it puts them out, I just kind of will bend them and guide them to where they hit the soil, and then they just root back in, and that's just another anchor point for these massive vines to hold on to. Oh, really quick, since I'm looking at it, I would definitely recommend, they make it in green. This is actually Velcro for like electronics. That's what I had on hand, but they make it in green as well for landscaping and plants. This works amazing for being able to pull your Monstera vine up against your moss pole. I just have been sliding these up as I go. As far as watering goes, I tend to let this dry out pretty significantly before I water it, and then I will actually water it deeply so that the water does come out the drainage holes in the bottom. I do have a drip tray down there. And yes, there's hilariously an extension cord plugged into the Monstera. I decorated it with Christmas lights a couple Christmases ago, and those are a permanent fixture now since the plant grew around them. Anyway, back to watering. Definitely let it dry. I tend to actually dig down into the soil with my hands, and if it's dry when I'm digging, then I just go ahead and water. Usually for me, it's about every week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that, maybe 10 days before I water it each time. For fertilizing, I do use a couple different fertilizers, just depending on what I am fertilizing plant-wise. Oh gosh, I just love that leaf up there. Sorry, squirrel moment. For this one, since I get pretty lazy with some of my bigger plants, I just use like an Osmocote Plus, the stuff that's designed for indoor plants. And I just throw that in its pot at the recommended, or a little less than the recommended indoor rate, you know, in the early spring. And then they say to fertilize in the fall. Sometimes I remember to do it, sometimes I don't. I don't personally like fertilizing in the fall just because of the risk of fertilizer burn over the winter when that light gets low. But really, these guys are just incredibly easy keepers. I think a lot of people run into trouble when they overthink them. They tend to think that they're super fussy, and they really aren't. You just get them in a nice chunky, airy mix, let them dry out, and then water them deeply and just kind of let them do their thing. And make sure you're giving them enough light, because that's, I think, one of the big problems for a lot of Monstera keepers is they just don't give them enough light. And then the plants are really sad because they just have all this extra water that they don't know what to do with. And so the roots rot because they don't have enough light to use that water. So definitely make sure you're giving them enough light, and, you know, water really when it gets dry. Now let's talk propagating these guys. They actually propagate really readily through vine cuttings. And in that instance, let's squeeze in here so you can see. You'll actually take a cutting in between two leaf nodes, and you can cut and then propagate it there. So it might actually be a little easier to see lower down. Sorry about that. Lower down, you can see I have some corking going on that's pretty typical of older vine. But you can see here, this is the leaf, and then right here is another leaf. And you would actually cut in between two leaves, and then you need that node tissue in order to root. And it will actually send out a new vine from in there. Monsteras will also randomly send out pups, which, if I can get in here, you can actually see that I have a baby that it just shot out from underneath the soil. It's super dusty, but let's see if I can squeeze her out. This is actually a brand new baby Monstera that my plant decided to put out. There's its new leaf with its split, that nice neon green that they get. They will also send out random vines from along the main vine, and that's what I have going on here. It just decided it was putting out a new vine, and just kind of wings way out there. So far I'm letting it do its thing, but if it starts to get a little too unruly, then I will have to snip that, just to try and somewhat manage this wildness, I guess, because they are just, you know, they just really are incredible, and they just kind of do their own thing. Taming them is only up to a certain point. I mean, as you can see, the vine is about 2 inches thick right here. There's just really, you just kind of go with it, see what it does. Oh, another thing you may see on Monstera, especially on the newer leaves like this one in here, is you may see little drips of water on the tips of the leaves after you do a heavy watering. The newer leaves seem to do it more than the older leaves. I haven't noticed my older leaves doing it very often. What that is gluteation. It's part of the transpiration process. It's basically just the plant breathing at night. And when there's a lot of extra water in the soil, they will actually release some of that water from the leaf surface, and it rolls down and then drips off. It's actually a really cool thing, but it doesn't mean your plant is sad or is, you know, you're doing anything wrong. It's just part of what Monsteras do when there's just a little bit of extra water in the soil after a heavy watering. It's definitely neat. Let me see. I wanted to show you this nifty little tool that I found that works great for the giant leaves. It's actually a car detailing brush, just a little guy that you can like keep in your glove box. Totally stole it out of my husband's car, so because it was perfect, and it works great for just wiping down those leaves. It's microfiber, so it's nice and soft. It's not going to damage the leaves, and it has just lots of little surface to get rid of all that dust. If you find the dust doesn't come off very well, you can use a little bit of water on a damp rag and just wipe it off. Definitely don't use anything else though, like a leaf shine or a, you know, I've heard of people using milk or mayonnaise or things like that, and just that's not a good route to go. It will clog the pores in the leaves and inhibit that transpiration process. It inhibits the breathing and can cause a lot of problems for your plants. They'll basically just start to suffocate because their pores are too plugged. Thank you guys for tuning into my Monstera video. I appreciate you guys watching. If you could, like the video and subscribe to stay tuned for more. I plan on doing a whole bunch of videos here in the near future. And I just can't wait to share more videos with you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.